oh, I'm going to be a waitress, because it didn't work out. No, it has to work out. It has to. And I was fired.
Fired on your first day, on your first job. And we're like, shit, what are we going to do?
You technically can become a software engineer by going on a computer, sitting down and Googling.
And you sat your butt at home on the computer, studying your ass off, hundreds of hours, and putting into Google, how to code, enter.
Yeah. After I paid $20,000 on that thing, I had to make that work. And
they almost tried to kick you out.
I had no clue what I was doing. Yeah. I was put in a wall and say that it's not for you, you should give up. You told me to not give up. Next day I told my mentor, I'm not giving up.
What a special guest I have today. I have the beautiful, the wonderful, the intelligent, my wife, Patricia Silva de Araújo Shirazi. How you doing today?
Oh my God, you just said my full name. Yeah, I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. So we had we have the opportunity today to talk about your career. You have a super interesting career path.
Do you think?
I think. You have what most people aspire to have, which is a high-paying career in an industry with a lot of headroom. And the most amazing thing is that you were able to do it in a short period of time. You came to America not speaking English. You didn't have a college education in the United States, didn't have any technical training. And within 2 years, you were able to make over six figures in an industry that is extremely competitive, male dominant. And it's an extremely inspiring story. And I think that you need to tell the world about what you've accomplished.
Well, thank you so much. It does sound quite amazing when you speak like that. Well, I don't know. I think for my whole life, I try to make the decisions that makes more sense. And when I say that, I mean by what can I do the least and get the most. That's what my head is like. From the day that I was understanding myself as a person. So when I moved to the United States, like you said, I just tried to think, what can I do to get the most of it? And I think I also cannot forget to give you credit because you were the one who actually were looking for this kind of thing, boot camps and technology. And I was like, okay, just passing by you and you say, oh, there, this boot camps, you can become a software engineer and this and that. And you're talking like Hebrew to me because I'm like, what the hell are you talking about?
So let's take a step back. What do you do for work?
Okay. I am a software engineer for a big tech company. This is my career after being a math teacher in Brazil for 4 years.
So you were a math teacher in Brazil.
Right.
And now you're a software engineer.
Correct.
Do you want to tell us how much money you make?
Not much, right? Do I make much? I mean, it's a lot of money if you think about the average salary in America, right?
Without a college degree in the United States.
Yeah, without a college degree in the United States and a college degree in computer science.
So how much money do you make?
I don't know what I'm gonna say. I make six figure, right?
More than that,
yeah.
Upper six figures. You don't make $900,000, but you make we'll say put it like this, between $100,000 and $200,000.
Yeah.
In that range, okay. And you did this with no college in the United States. You have a college degree in Brazil.
Right.
But when you come to the United States, it doesn't really transfer over that way.
No.
And you basically, how did you get training in order to get this job? Walk us through the journey that you took to get this over six-figure job in the United States with no college degree.
Right. I just want to take a small step back because I do have a college degree, and some people think, oh, but you went to college. I did. I went to college for math education in Brazil. But when I moved to the United States, I had an option to maybe transfer my diploma, which like was some sort of bureaucratic process. I could maybe get a license to teach in California. That would take time and money with the very little reward.
Right. A
return.
teacher's salary is like $60,000 per year.
Yeah, I'm sorry, teachers. I love teaching. I used to love teaching. But it wouldn't get my return back, and it would take time. So by that time, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, was the big boom of big tech companies. I think, one of those big booms. And the demand for software engineering and for tech jobs increased so much that in San Francisco mainly, those companies known as Bootcamp,
Coding bootcamp.
coding bootcamps, it started to pop up. And that was a shortcut to get in the tech industry and get a tech job, a high-paying tech job.
What is a coding bootcamp?
A coding bootcamp is a program that you pay, of course, and they give you a structure to follow through. And by the end of it, you have nothing. You have a certification that doesn't really, have a purpose. Like you can knock at Google's door and say, hey.
It's not like a college degree.
Right.
It's not a recognizable certificate. It's not a certification.
Right.
They don't give you any kind of guarantees of jobs. Although the marketing for these boot camps, these coding boot camps, are very good, and they let you think that they're going to have a high placement rate, or you're going to get a job after you finish this.
Right.
And they charge a lot of money, right? How much was the boot camp that you went to?
I went to Hack Reactor, which is one of the well-known boot camps. I think now they merged with Galvanize. The cost was $20,000.
$20,000. And how long was this coding boot camp?
6 weeks.
So 6 weeks.
How can you become something in 6 weeks?
Yeah, that was like, they sold the dream really well.
Dang.
They're like, 6-figure salary, break into tech, 6 weeks. And of course, it sounds really good. And the one of the reasons why these boot camps can charge so much money is because they offer financing.
Right.
And they have these different types of arrangements where, you don't pay until after you're finished. But for them, there's like almost no cost involved. So, it's a really good deal for them. And, education, everyone wants to increase their education. So what was your experience like going through this boot camp?
Terrible.
It was a hard time, I remember.
It was such a hard time. I just wanted to point it out that, to become a software engineer, you don't really need a college degree. The tech companies, the big tech companies even, they won't require you to have a diploma in computer science. So you technically can become a software engineer by going on a computer, sitting down and Googling which programming language to learn and finding prompts and finding projects to work on. But these coding boot camps, they give you a structure. Because if you go to a computer and try to search for things, you will get overwhelmed. You don't know how to start, right? So these coding boot camps, they give you a structure. And that was great. However, Hack Reactor has a, I don't know if they have it today, but they used to have a technical interview to get in. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
I'm saying dang because I tried 3 times.
Yeah.
That was how bad I was. I had no clue what I was doing.
Yeah.
I remember I tried the first time. To give a perspective to the potential software engineers that are watching this, I think the technical interview was to loop through an array, and I couldn't do it the first one. I could not do it. Find a key in an object, something like super trivial. The second time I didn't pass, and I was like, dang, I cannot even pass the thing. How am I going to become a software engineer? And I think the third time I just was as bad as I went. the last 2 times, but they wanted my money. So they just like, you know what, girl, come here, let's just do it.
Yeah, so before you can even enter one of these coding boot camps, you have to do like show that you have put in the most basic level of self-study. And you failed it like multiple times before you even got in.
I put some level of effort.
Yeah, you were trying. You were trying hard up until that time. I remember, I'd say probably a couple hundred hours worth of studying before you even entered this boot camp. You had zero knowledge walking into this boot camp.
Zero. And to give you more like perspective, guys, my English was really broken.
Yeah. Let's talk about that for a second. So you English is not your first language.
No.
You were in the United States for about a year.
Yeah.
Do you remember what made the decision to where you were gonna actually pursue this? I remember it as a cool story. About how
I'm
you
gonna let you say it
okay.
because I don't remember.
I'll tell you because it's fun. So I got a job in San Francisco in the tech industry as a project manager type of role. And you had just gotten your work permit, super excited. It took like 6 months for you to get your work permit. So you went around figuring out how you're going to find a job. And you went to you found a hostess job at a restaurant.
Waterfront in San Francisco.
Waterfront.
What a fancy restaurant. Lady Gaga was there.
Okay, so you got a job at this restaurant. You showed up on your very first day, all like this, right?
No, here's the thing. How did I find this job? I don't know if it's like relevant or no, but I think it's an interesting story. I also was working. I did have my work permit, but I didn't have one single friend, nothing to do, right?
Yeah.
So I was at home, living with some people. We were sharing apartments with some people in tech, by the way. And then this guy come in to clean the apartment.
Yeah.
And then I just noticed that because I asked him a question and he replied in English with the Portuguese accent. And I was like, are you Brazilian? And he's like, yes. And then we started gossiping. He was so much fun. It's like, oh, I need a job. And he was like, you know, you're pretty. You're pretty. Just dress and go to this place right now. Go now. They need a hostess. And you can find this job. You can get a job. And I went there all like feeling myself. Sure enough, I got a job.
Yeah.
I got a job as a hostess in this fancy restaurant. And then I had to start the next day. So I bought some clothes and I went there. I remember my English was still very broken. I was trying to say like, hey, can you hold on for a second on the phone? And someone called me and I'm like, I said something like that sounded like it. And anyway, my boss asked me if I was able and available to work for Christmas. And we did have plans for Christmas. Would be my first Christmas in the United States with your family.
We're going to go visit my family.
Right. And I said, like, unfortunately, I already have plans. I wasn't expecting that. That was 1 month before Christmas that he was, asking if I was available to. And I was fired.
Fired on your first day, on your first job in the United States when you just got your worker's permit. Fired.
Yeah.
So you came home and we're like, shit, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
And that's when we decided, you know what, let's swing for the fences. You're going to stay home. I'm going to pay the bills. You were going to learn how to code. We did research. We found the best coding boot camp. And you sat your butt at home on the computer studying your ass off, hundreds of hours. What is coding? Putting into Google, how to code, enter.
Yeah. What is JavaScript?
Yeah. What is JavaScript?
Yeah, that was my... Oh, man. I just want to point out, I'm not clueless. I probably was fired also because my English was really bad. And my beauty didn't, wasn't enough to...
Your beauty can only carry you so far.
Carry so far. But yeah, that was the highest motivation I had. I remember walking home and I'm like, dang, I'm in this foreign country. I know anyone. I know nobody. I know nothing. Even though I have a diploma and I had a career in Brazil, because even though I made not much money in Brazil, but I was past this stage of going to college, of learning something new, sucking at something new. and finally establishing yourself in a career. I used to work for a big company in Brazil, so I had this done, I had this check mark done. And I just thought to myself, okay, I'm starting from zero. I'm starting like from minus zeros because I don't even know the language.
Remember how you went to go learn English, by the way?
I went to community college.
A free night school at a community college, an adult school, they call it, like for old people to learn. And there was this 85-year-old professor, super cute old guy, right? And he was like all excited to teach you English and teach the class English. And it was a free night school that you went to at a community college.
Yeah, you dropped me there.
I would drop you off and pick you up, and you learned English for free at these classes.
That was how I learned Yankee Doodle.
Yankee Doodle.
And also, like, I always made a lot of effort to try to speak the best as I can, because I'm not gonna lie, I judge people who speak wrong Portuguese.
English?
No, Portuguese in Brazil.
In Brazil,
When people get there and they speak broken Portuguese, of course, like people native that like are living 30 years there. So I want to make sure I had a decent English to get a job in a good company.
Yeah. That's a step up over a lot of people that come to this country and put like zero effort into learning the language, right?
Yeah, and that is so important, because you're lying if you say that you don't like judge a little bit if the person doesn't really speak.
Well, here's the thing. It's like if you come to the country and you don't speak the language, your opportunities are very, very limited. Like how can you conduct any kind of business or be employable if you don't even speak the language?
Right.
So that was step one, is you had to learn English. So you dedicated yourself to night school and whatever resources were available, because we had like zero money.
Yeah.
Zero money. And so you figured out a way how to learn English for free, and you dedicated to that first.
Right. But I'm going to say when I joined Hack Reactor, I wasn't confident, because here's the thing. Sometimes you will learn English, the language, enough to understand well, but to carry a conversation, that was something really, really new to me in English. And when I joined Hack Reactor, I went to the classroom again as a old person, for classroom setup, with its new young people trying to make a conversation with me, and I would just freeze. I literally would just I didn't. That was my first contact with American culture as well, where people are friendly, but not as friendly as Brazilian. Because when you go to the Brazil community setup, people will be like, "Oh, you gringo! Oh, let's go with us. Let's party. No, you go to my house. We're gonna have a barbecue. Oh, he doesn't even know how to speak. Let me teach you. Eu gosto de você." Something like that. So when I went to Hack Reactor as someone who had no good English, people didn't care. Oh, you can hold a conversation. Okay.
We have a lot of immigration here. Everybody.
Everyone is
when I went to Brazil, I was one of the only gringos, one of the only Americans, right? Only foreigners. But when you come here, this is a land of a lot of immigrants, a lot of foreigners. And so you weren't special. You weren't, all that interesting. You were just another person trying to make it in the United States. But there's one thing about learning English, but it's a whole other thing learning technical English. Learning how to, learning a technical field that's very specific, all types of technical language that is one step above just your standard conversational English.
Yeah, that's for sure. And also on the Hack Reactor setup, I remember having a whole of colleagues there that were also migrating from other countries to just do that course. So that was Chinese people, Indian people, and one thing is to know English, other thing is to understand English with the
other people's accents.
People's accent. And that was really, really overwhelming to me.
So what was the day-to-day like at this coding boot camp?
What a nightmare. What a nightmare. Well, we would arrive at 8 a.m.
It was 8 a.m.,
8 a.m. And every single day we would have a toy problem, which is pretty much a prompt a technical question, you know, changing a data type to another data type, converting a data structure to another one, you know, looping through something really complex data structures, you would be paired with 5 people and try to solve this problem actually by yourself at the beginning. And then after half an hour, you need to submit. When you submit this code, it has like a script that goes through your code and like tag if passes the test or not. Through all my experience at Hack Reactor, I never had a toy problem that passed the test. But to make it like not sound really so bad, most of people didn't like,
right.
You know, some people, I thought it was so crazy. Like some people were there, but they already had a computer science degree. Some people were there and they already were working as a software engineer. I was like, are you guys like,
yeah,
like, why are you doing that? So maybe they did, maybe they check all the boxes, but most of us wouldn't.
Yeah. So you got there 8 a.m. and it ended like
10 p.m. sometimes.
Yeah. You were there for over 12 hours a day.
It was exhausting.
Yeah.
We would have a project to work on every day. They teach JavaScript, and the idea is to give you a good base where you have ability to pass a technical interview. And you potentially will have some projects to add to your GitHub, which is something that recruiters and tech companies will use to look at it and understand if you have some ability or some experience coding.
Yeah.
At least at the time. I think now recruiters will look for experience mostly, because anyone can bullshit their way adding, you know, GitHub projects that they just clone and paste and, you know, fork and add to their own profiles.
So 12 hours a day, and that was really the mentality of that coding bootcamp. I mean, they called it a coding bootcamp for a reason. You know, the bootcamp comes from the military culture, where it's, you know, the bootcamp in military, it's like depending 8 to 10 weeks, 12 weeks, and it's very intense, and it's designed to break you down. It's supposed to be an intense period of learning.
Right.
And they adapted that culture into the learning environment, where it was, the expression is drinking from a fire hose, right? Where they give you so much. And the objective is that when you come out of this, you have some kind of job skills that are going to help you be able to actually perform in the job.
Yeah.
So that was, I think, 6 weeks, $20,000. And when you finished the course, how many job offers did you get?
0.
Yeah.
0.
Did you feel like you were ready for a job after the coding bootcamp?
No, at all. I think I just wanted to say that halfway through the course, Hack Reactor had a deal that if you don't like it, something like that, they would give you money back.
They almost tried to kick you out.
That's what I was going to say. Halfway through it, they called me to a room, and I remember my mentor at that time. He asked me, "Hey Patricia, we are here to talk to you. We think that maybe this is not for you."
Boom. You're like, I have dedicated my life to this. I'm working 12 hours a day. I put hundreds of hours in just to even enter this place.
Yeah.
We're halfway through. You call me in your office and you say, I don't think you're going to make it.
I do
Patricia,
understand.
You're not going to make it.
Yes. You know what? At that time when he told me that, I was like, yeah, he's right. I cannot do that. It was just impossible for me to process the amount of knowledge where when my mental and my physical at that time weren't like, I didn't have strength enough. I couldn't like compute things. Like even the idea of an API request, like a computer communicating to another server to the cloud, this would make me like, my mind would be like, what the hell is going on? How am I like typing something and sending something? There is a back end. With addition to my my English that wasn't like good enough for me to express, to ask good questions. Anyway, and I remember going home and telling you, hey, they asked me that. And then you told me, no, you shouldn't give up. Do you remember that?
I said, fuck no.
You told me to not give up.
Of course.
You told me, man, sometimes I remember this man here telling me, you will get this because the math needs to matter like at the end of the day. If you put in effort, if you put in dedication time, the result cannot be other than you getting a job. You accomplish this. And sometimes I tell you this, like,
the way I look at it is like this, okay? You have a graph, okay? And you're here and you have to get to here. And if every day you get a little bit closer, the math works out to where at some point you're going to get there. Now, the timeline could be different. You might get there like this, you might get there like this, but if you keep going and you don't stop, then you end up getting there, and it's just math.
Yeah.
It's like, it's you're going to get there. If you take a step, it doesn't matter if it's 0.01 centimeter every single day. If you keep going, you'll eventually get there. And what we found out was after the boot camp, that's when the work started.
Dang, yes. You told me to not give up. Next day, I told my mentor, I'm not giving up. Like that. I'm not. I'm going to do it. And he's like, okay. And what was 8 to 10 p.m. or 8 to 7 p.m., and we had 1 hour break for dinner or something like that. My mentor, shout out to my mentor, he would call me to have my dinner with him, where he would walk through a problem that we worked on that day. I was the only one who had this additional attention. Some people got jealous. I was like, why am I not getting the attention? But I was the only one who was, I was put in a wall and say that it's not for you, you should give up. So that's why they put some effort on that. Yeah. And this person in particular.
Yeah.
So I'm very thankful, grateful for people there that wasn't looking for only the money.
Yeah.
And trying to get something out of me that would make that worth it. And afterwards, I started the application for jobs, and I would apply for every single job because there is something that I'm not really embarrassed to ask for things that I want. Like, come on, I need to apply for jobs to have a chance to get a job.
Yeah.
So I would apply for a lot of jobs. Yeah, and I remember thinking, what is my differential? I barely know how to code. My English is not that great. It was better at that time, but still not great yet. But I do speak Portuguese, and I know everything about Brazil. That's the only thing I can add to the table. And I remember putting on LinkedIn search, JavaScript, Portuguese, Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
Like putting this combination, because this would be the chance to narrow down the competition.
Totally.
Because how many Brazilian, knows how to code? How many people who speak Portuguese and know this combination is harder? And
so look, it's like, okay, software engineer, the market is, let's say, this, right? And then you have Portuguese, and it's like this. And now when you combine those two and where they intersect is very, very small.
Yes.
So you use your unique value and your unique offering in order to narrow down that little niche and what you can actually search for. And now you went from a pool of 10,000 jobs down to like 50 jobs.
Right.
And now you knew kind of where to focus your efforts.
100%. And I remember I started to get replies from those companies because that is something called localization specialist. All the big companies, they exist in all the planet, most of the planet. So, for example, Google, you have Google United States that if you search for something, the search will be adapted to people that are in United States. But if you search for the same thing in Brazil, people are looking for something else sometimes. So Google will need to trigger another result to show up. So they need localization specialists for each local that they exist. And, you know, that was my first tech job. I found a localization specialist job that was sort of like QA engineer. It's like someone that knew JavaScript and Portuguese.
Yeah. But let's focus on that for a sec because, okay, back up, because I want to get to that point because that was like a really big moment for us, right?
Right.
But up to that point, you were submitting how many applications?
Oh.
How many job applications did you submit before you got to that first job? And we'll talk about that first job in a second. But how many job applications did you submit until you got that first job?
10 a day.
10 per day.
Yeah.
Per day over maybe 6 months?
Yes.
Maybe 500 applications, something like that?
Yes. Other thing that Hack Reactor does, you know, Hack Reactor, if you want to sponsor this podcast, by the way, Hack Reactor will give you some assistance, like is a coach, a career coach, that even afterwards, she or he will sync with you once a week and keep you like, accountable for your job search. My career coach, I won't remember her name now. I have her on my LinkedIn. She was awesome. And then she would ask, how many applications did you do? And she would like ask me, and I was like, I'm going to apply. I'm not qualified. I'm going to apply. I don't care. I'm going to let them to tell me that I'm not qualified, or they will not even give me an answer. Yeah. So I got some interviews, went terrible on those interviews, but that gave me a perspective to understand how bad I was and where should I improve.
And that's an important aspect, okay? So here's how it started off. 10 applications a day.
Yeah.
You were doing hundreds, literally hundreds of applications. And first of all, a lot of people will ask, how do you break into tech? And then we'll respond, well, how many job applications did you submit?
Yeah.
I submitted 15 applications over the past 4 months. 15?
That's nothing.
I'll do that before lunch.
Yeah.
Right? So, okay, the first step was hundreds and hundreds of applications and nobody would respond.
Right.
And then you started getting callbacks. And then you wouldn't get past that step. And then after several different callbacks, you do your first interview. And then they would end there. And then after your first interview, you started getting a coding challenge. Mm-hmm. And then the coding challenges, you started failing there too. Right. You failed so many coding interviews.
Yes.
Right? And then after you failed the coding interviews, there's like the second interview. So sometimes you get past those ones. But it ended up becoming just like a numbers game.
Yeah.
If you know the end job is like the end is you're going to be your job offer. And before that, you have 2 coding interviews. Before that, you have a non-technical interview. Before that, you have a callback. Before that, you have the job application. So it's a pipeline. You can't get coding interviews without applications. So, you know, maybe 100 applications that you sent, you get 2 coding interviews. Out of every 10 coding interviews, you might, get to the second level. And after 10 second levels, you might get 1 job offer.
Yeah.
So it's just a math problem is what it came down to also. So let's say you submitted 1,000 applications to get, 20 callbacks. From 20 callbacks, you got 7 coding interviews. From 7 coding interviews, you passed 2 or 3. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yes, exactly. And I remember not getting enough interviews. I did get some phone screens. I would go bad on phone screens. Like literally, a call would make me so nervous because you basically need to lie when you get out of the boot camp. They ask you like, so what do you work on? And I'm like, oh, I work with a team of engineers. Read people from Hack Reactor. Oh, we work on this big this big problem that we needed to connect to the database. It was all
read
fake.
Toy problem.
Yeah, it was toy problem.
You had to lie. You had to fake it till you make it.
That was just like my experience was literally things that I did on Hack Reactor.
Yeah.
I did not have real experience. So, and hey man, like I don't know if that works today, and I don't know if that works for everyone, but that was my only option. After I paid $20,000 on that thing, I had to make that work. And
Yeah.
I couldn't accept that I would throw away that money, that time, that suffering that I went through. And just like, oh, I'm going to be a waitress, because it didn't work out. No, it has to work out. It has to. So I finally got an interview for this company who wanted someone with some technical knowledge and is Portuguese speaker.
Yeah. By the way, this company is freaking Google.
Yes.
It's freaking Google.
Yes. And some people I'm gonna be honest. It was a contractor that contracted for Google, and I did work at a Google campus, and all my work was involving Google products. I would review queries in Portuguese, and then I would run commands. It wasn't very, very technical, but it did give me the foot on the door, some technical experience, minimal with a big company. And come on, working at Google company.
Yeah,
Google.
so you got the offer to work at a Google as a contractor, and what was the first salary for that?
That I can say, right? 78,000 a year.
Yeah, so almost 80,000.
Yeah.
Which was how much I was making at the time.
Isn't it crazy?
I was making 80K and you were making 78K.
Yeah.
And at the time. Now,
and Reed, you have a master's degree.
And I have a master's degree. I have experience. I have a regular degree in economics. I'm born and raised in the United States. And so here I am with all of my experience, my job experience, my life experience, a white male privilege in America. And I walk in and I get this $80,000 job. And then my wife with no American college degree, with no job experience, walks in and gets the same salary as I did.
Yeah.
I was like, dang.
Calling beach. And, mixing out beach and beach is too.
Yeah. So you worked at Google for 2 years, 3 years?
2 years until the project actually moved to Texas and other Google sites, and we were willing to move.
Now that was a suffering too, right? Working at Google.
Suffering?
Yeah, just because of that commute.
Oh, 2-hour commute. Yeah.
2 hours each
way.
More than 2 hours. Sometimes it was close to 3 hours.
I would get sick in a bus.
It was 2 to 3 hours each way.
Yeah.
So you'd wake up, go spend 2 or 3 hours in a bus going to Google campus in South Bay area.
Yeah.
And we lived in the city of San Francisco. And then at the end of the day, you'd hop on your bus and go 2 to 3 hours home. Some people work 6 hours a day. You were on a freaking bus 6 hours a day, commuting to and from work to get your foot in the door, working at Google.
Yes, but I couldn't complain because after all, it was my first job and I was just blessed to have that job. But I did I was to get sick in the bus. Google, they send a bus to you to pick you up. So that was something amazing. Free food. I would, eat free food at Google
talk to us about what it was like working at Google.
It was amazing. It was great. I never thought in my life that I would even put my feet there, because I remember in Brazil, I used to teach in this school that was, students that wanted to get into the job market, and we would talk about work culture, because in Brazil I used to teach math, but also businesses.
Yeah, career advancement stuff, career training and stuff.
Yes, and I remember one day talking about Google culture for my students in Brazil, and I was like, they give you food. They give food for the employees for free. Look at this campus. I remember showing my students, and they, oh, a teacher, they call us teacher in Brazil. Oh, imagine who works there. I was like, I don't know. You need to be so lucky to work there. And I was there, and we had classes, free classes. I remember going to
Pump or
Body
something?
bump.
Body pump?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had a pool for, you know, if you want to swim.
They had laundry. They had
I used to do
jujitsu.
laundry.
They had what are some of the perks, like community bicycles?
Yes.
They had shuttles. They had did they actually have nap pods there, like where you can go take a nap?
Well, I think so. I never been to. They have secret rooms.
Secret rooms.
And you have to touch the wall and which ones will open the room. Also, you can access any Google office in the world with your badge. So I remember working one day from New York office, San Francisco office instead of the Mountain View one. Even going to San Diego office once. And yeah, it was just a lot of fun.
That's a cool experience. So your first tech job was working at Google. And it wasn't a very, very technical role. It was like a QA, kind of like borderline touching tech, borderline.
Yes.
It wasn't a software engineer,
Yes.
but it was technical enough to where, one, you got to be around technical, like the environment. Two, you got to have Google on your resume.
100%. And now, you know, if I bullshit my way around having only Hack Reactor as my experience to get a job at Google, now I can bullshit my way.
Yeah, exactly.
Using Google experience to get a job somewhere else.
Yeah.
And now I don't need to push that hard, right? Because I did do some automation. I remember you were learning Python. I remember like using some of your knowledge to automate some processes on stuff that I was working on. So I would try to squeeze some technical, things on my job at Google.
Yeah.
I met so many people too, which I still speak to, talk to. It was just great. My English improved like so much because I was speaking English every day, professional English too, not like casual.
Conversational.
Yeah.
So your first job, you made $80K. And then now it was time to get your real first software engineering job.
Yeah, I thought it would
Which
be easier.
you thought, okay, I'm done. I got my first job. Cool. But then they laid off the whole team after about 2 years.
Yeah.
And now you were like, shoot, I have to go to the next level and get an actual software engineer job.
Yes. So I went back to Lit Code. I went back to build projects. I built a resume from scratch using React and, JavaScript again. I kept focused on one language. I was like, if I start like learning Python, it's going to be too much. Like, let's focus on one thing. And I remember I actually I tried again my same technique, Portuguese, Brazil, JavaScript. And I actually found a gig in Brazil.
Yeah.
And
working remotely.
There was a website in Brazil paying in reais. And I applied for that job, and the guy was like, "Hey, Patricia, I'm seeing here you're from California. You understand that I'm paying 3,000 reais a month for this job,
which is
right?
like $800 a month.
$800? No, it's like
3,000 reais. It's like 800.
600.
600, $800, sure.
Yeah. And I'm like, yes, I understand. Don't question my reasons. Right? I need experience. I need hands-on experience.
Yeah.
Software engineer. I need to say to people, I am a software engineer. Even if you pay me $100, I can tell to the recruiter, I can say, I worked for a company. Because now I'm not lying. As a software engineer,
yeah.
And then he hired me. And I was like, okay, I'm telling you, I have work ethics. I'm interested in your job. And he needed someone like ASAP to work building front-end landing pages for John Deere, Senai, if you
John Deere.
John Deere.
Yeah.
Senai, if you're Brazilian,
GlaxoSmithKline, like medical companies.
Yes, GSK.
Mm-hmm.
All the companies.
And so you pretty much were working for $600 a month.
Yeah. And working.
Most people wouldn't do that. Most people are like, no, I'm a software engineer. I'm not gonna. I was making $80,000. I'm not gonna take this job making $600 a month. But you did because you realized that you needed the experience. You needed to actually work as a software engineer. And you knew that once you had that experience, and that was going to take you to the next step. And it
Correct.
wasn't about the money at that point. You
No.
needed the experience, and so you took that job.
Yeah, and I did got laid off, so I did get laid off, so I had a severance.
Yeah, yeah.
To have some cushion. But yeah, I worked for this company for 3-4 months, and I continue applying for American companies. And, you know, of course, like any company that had some Portuguese thing, I would still squeeze into because I thought that would be my differential. And I did find a job after at Casa de Bahia. Who knows? Banky, which is like an app that competes with Nubank. I don't know if it, you know, actually worked out, but I did work for that project. And I applied for a job that was listed for São Paulo. I applied for this job. I wrote a cover letter saying, I know this job is for São Paulo, but I do see that you guys also have other jobs in the United States. And I do speak Portuguese and English. I have experience. And I think I can communicate to your both teams because
Yeah.
you have two teams. And end up, you know, was a company that was in New York, crypto company, that was developing this backend for Casas Bahia app. And they hired me. It
Yeah.
was like, and that was my first 6-figure job.
How much did you make in that job?
100,000. That was,
It was 100,000 exactly?
and I'm trying to remember.
I think it was 120.
No, 120 was my following one.
Okay.
I think it was 107, something like that.
Okay. So you went from $80,000 per year to $600 per month, and then you finally got your first 6-figure salary, making
Yes.
$107,000 a year.
Correct.
Yeah. Remote,
Remote.
working from home.
Speaking Portuguese.
Yeah.
With the Brazilian team, but we did have like these two teams. So I was speaking Portuguese and English to other teams. We built this app, this financial apps from scratch. I was pretty much the head of the team. I thought this is what I thought. I thought I would get there. I would find genius. I would found these engineers that knew it all.
Yeah.
I was just a dumb person. And these people has been doing this for so long. And then when I got there, I asked people questions and they didn't
no
know as
idea.
well. And they didn't know as well. And I was teaching them stuff that I was trying to find out. You know, I got a sciatica pen that I still have it from sitting on my computer for too long.
Yeah. So $107,000. You stayed there for how long?
I stayed there for, I think, 1 year.
Okay.
At some point, they closed the office in the United
Yeah,
States and they let off everyone but me, the
And
engineer.
then what was the next job you got?
I got another job as a software engineer for a healthcare AI company. And that was my first, like, all English, you know, job. And I worked there, but didn't
What was the salary
enjoy.
for that one?
120.
120. So from 80 to $600 a month to 107 and then 120.
Right.
And you were there for like 2 years.
1 year. Yeah, 1
1
year
year?
and something, yeah.
And then after that, then today you work at a Fortune 500 company, one of the biggest banks in the world.
Yeah.
And you make considerable amount more than that.
Yes, because, you know, I had more to give too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And now you've been there for over a year.
Yes.
And how do you like it? Do you like being a software engineer?
Honestly, I love it.
Really?
I love it. I love this thing. After you get out of the frustration of not getting one thing to work, when you get something to work, it's so rewarding. And also, I love the projects that I'm working on, like, you know, building something from scratch. I love puzzles. This is something that I didn't realize, like, I did math. In Brazil, I study math. Math is hard, but it's very rewarding when you you actually make it make sense on your head and you find the solution, you know.
Yeah.
So I love it. It's flexible. I work from home, flexible hours. Like, you know, everything has a limit, but I put my hours in every day, and yeah.
Yeah. And the next step, what's the next step for you? So you're right now you're a senior associate engineer.
Right.
The
I'm not
next step
senior
for you?
engineer yet.
Yeah. What's the next step?
I want to grow on my career. I feel that definitely worth it. All the suffering and all the headache. It was at the end of the day a shortcut. I didn't go to college here, and I invested $20,000, and I got a big return out of it. So I just want to keep growing my career, and I'm glad that I had these skills that even if I get fired, I think with this skill, you can always do something for yourself.
You mean like start your own business and build your own company,
Yes.
kind of?
Yes, and also, even though the market's a little bit down right now, there are always demand for software engineers and tech, careers like data engineers in general, like cloud engineers, because the technology is growing and it's just gonna become more demanding, I think.
What's your next salary goal?
I want to make at least
$250,000.
Yes,
That'd be nice,
it's
right?
about time, huh?
I think senior engineers at big companies, like the top 20, 30 firms,
Yes.
are making $225,000, $250,000, and I think that's your next goal.
Yes. Yeah, I want to do that, and I know I bring the work ethics, because the other thing, like, even if you have the skills, you have to have like this ownership. This is something that's very valuable on software engineering teams. So, I wanted to become a software engineer so bad that once I got hired, I made sure to make people understand why you hire me, that I had my value. And that's why some people say, like, oh, diversity hire. There are diversity hires. And don't get me wrong, I'm a woman, I'm Latina. And maybe that was the reason. Maybe I got some interviews. I don't know. I think on these first companies, I don't think so, because I had certain such a specific skills like Portuguese and JavaScript. That was I was the option,
Yeah.
But to keep your job, you might get an interview if you are a minority. But to keep your job, you need to put in work.
Yep.
Okay? So it doesn't work if you are, look a certain way. You need to show up.
Yeah. Yeah. So what about AI and all these coding assistants and stuff? Do you feel like AI is coming for your job as a software engineer?
Yeah, that's a good question.
So just to back up for some context, for the AI side of it, with OpenAI and ChatGPT, they have these coding co-pilots, which will basically help you write code. You tell it what you want to write, and it'll spit out, the framework or the bones of the code that you need to write, and that makes your job a lot easier. You don't have to write as much, and so there's a lot of talk about what's going to happen to the software engineers. Are they going to eventually be automated? Are we going to have AI that's going to do all this work for you? Are you seeing AI in being utilized in your jobs, in your company?
I know because my company is very big, so there are some teams that definitely are using some AI resources. On my team, it didn't have a lot of impact. We are not using it. But right off the bat, I think if AI are learning from real engineers, that means that they won't come up really great. Because just kidding, but also a little bit true. I do think that could impact our salaries, the same way that the market's getting a little bit saturated. Like, there are a lot of people at the same time. So I don't know if the technology industry will keep it up the growth, especially with the economy, and that could impact salaries as well, which actually it is impacting. From what I'm seeing, the salaries are not so big like I saw like a few years ago. But AI, I think it could impact on the salary, because if you're not really so valuable, let's say, if there is a machine doing some of your work, even though you need to review, even though you need to kind of make some tweaks, I can see maybe you making less money.
Yeah.
In the long run.
My idea is that it's not going to replace
Yeah.
software engineers. It's going to make software engineers more productive.
Also.
And companies are going to be able to build faster and quicker, and they're going to be able to bring their ideas to market a lot
Yeah.
faster. But you're still going to have somebody actually, putting in the prompts and filling in all the blanks and making sure that the code works as expected, making sure the user experience is what's expected. And as AI gets better, maybe that role will be less and less, but you're still going to need people in the driver's seat making this work done. And I think that people's businesses and companies are going to have bigger, more ambitious plans. And they're not going to be, to me, it makes sense that people aren't going to be trying to do the same amount of work as before. They're going to just have bigger, more ambitious goals, and then using AI to help them accomplish those things much quicker and faster.
For sure. Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything you said. And I think also there are things that takes a long time for engineers to figure out, and and patterns that an AI can easily find that for an engineer would take a long time. But maybe for testing purpose, we need to test what the AI is building.
Yeah.
We
know that AI gets things wrong all the time.
All the time.
Today. But, who knows where it's going to be in
Yeah.
5-10 years from now.
For sure.
So.
Yeah. So I'm more interested on AI naming my variables and also making my commit messages.
Yeah.
That's my... just kidding, but also true. Anyway, I'm looking forward to it. I think we need to be welcomed, and there are more opportunities. Cloud computing, there is something that is very automated. Like if you use AWS is serverless. Like you need to very little setup to make your thing run in the cloud. AWS, if you want to sponsor this podcast. But you have the cloud, certification, AWS certification. And if you are a cloud engineer, you still make a lot of money. Yeah. Even though it's not really, you don't have to go hands-on an AWS and code most of things, It's mostly like setups and understanding of which feature is the ideal for your company, like things like that. I don't want to oversimplify, but I think you guys get what I mean.
Let's talk about people that are interested in getting into tech. So what advice would you give for someone that's looking to get into the tech industry and make over 6 figures in their job?
Well, would I recommend a bootcamp? I don't know. I think everything is online. But like I said, I didn't change my opinion about getting overwhelmed by the amount of material that you see online. So, but you definitely can find more affordable options. Also, a little bit slower options. You don't need to put yourself in a 6-week situation to learn everything there, because you won't. But either way, be prepared to put in a lot of work, a lot of hours of sitting down, mock interviews, lead code. Unfortunately, that's the reality. You still need to put the hours in and pass technical interview. Try to find, if you're looking for changing your career, try to find something that makes you unique. Maybe you're coming from marketing, maybe you're coming from the health industry, and you can find a health company that is hiring for a tech position, and you can, put that knowledge there. Like I work on this industry for very long. Maybe you think they don't care about it, but that could make you stand out. And apply. Yeah. Check out people that are applying for positions. Reach out to engineers to have a chat and like, can I take a look at your resume, and try to base your resume to theirs. Things like that. Yeah. But it is possible.
Yeah. So what else are you doing when you're not working, Patricia?
Cooking for my husband.
It's nice working from home, right? Working remotely is awesome.
It is.
It's a benefit that companies can afford to pay their employees less, and you will happily accept less money.
Oh, for sure.
To be able to work from home, right?
Maybe. Yeah.
Some future
Don't say that.
some
Don't.
future employer is going to use this against you. They're going to be like, but you said in that
Yeah,
podcast that you would
yeah.
accept less money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Deixa quieto.
Yeah. But it's yeah. So anything else that what else do you like to do these days?
Because my work demands so many hours sitting down and looking at computer, I really appreciate not having to sit down my ass so much for other activities. So I like to walk, biking, Pilates, and even going to Trader Joe's to buy something to cook later
Yeah.
that I'm excited about. It's really good when you don't have, I think you're going to feel attacked. But
Uh-oh.
because an entrepreneur don't have that. And that sucks. But also the reward for entrepreneur, it's way bigger. But when I like to have a stable job and get my salary. And when I got my job as a software engineer and I was actually like solid software engineer, I was like, ooh, now I can like think about
Enjoy
my
life.
hair, think about what can I buy today from, whatever, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I finally, what can I cook today? Let me see here the recipes that I have saved.
Yeah.
Because I have that part of my life kind of figured out.
Yeah.
Whereas
I don't.
Exactly.
Whereas
when
I'm
you're
like
entrepreneur.
Entrepreneur, yeah.
Yeah, entrepreneur.
Yeah, for me, it's the exact opposite. Like every single bit of my energy goes into building the next stage. What am I going to do to make it? How are we going to So we have this dynamic where you have the stable job that can pay the bills, and I am taking all the risk, spending all your money, and swinging for the fences.
I am the number one investor on whatever shit that he was working on. Well, but you know what? That's not something cool too, to have a partner to support you, to not make you give up, which I always had, which is my husband. And having him doing all this kind of crazy shit, it makes me happy because I wouldn't try that myself. So I have this cool thing that I have a stable job, but I have this man that is like trying all the things that like could work, and I wouldn't try myself.
Yeah,
So
but let's
for me,
not
that's
let's
cool.
not get it too twisted here. I have a decent career myself, right?
Of course, no.
So I've worked just because I have to defend myself.
Okay, go ahead.
I worked at Facebook as a project engineer.
Apple?
I worked at Apple as
Yeah.
a project manager. I decided to no longer pursue corporate America because for me it's soul sucking.
Yeah.
The idea of having to be sitting in a particular place at a particular time with people that I don't like and don't appreciate and have nothing in common with, working on something that I'm not passionate about and don't care about, to receive just enough salary to where I don't want to quit and do bad things. So I left my job last year, and I was absolutely determined to make it on my own, to have, my own business, my own income, and not have to rely on somebody else.
Right.
My ultimate goal is that I make so much money that you can quit your job comfortably. We can split our time between California and Brazil, and we get to
That's a main thing for me.
yeah. And we get to, enjoy life on our own terms. No one tells us where to be, how to act, what to do. And we have the ultimate freedom. So, and that is not something that's easy to do.
Oh, of course not.
All of the online gurus will tell you that you can, leave your job today, this and that. But it is freaking hard. It is hard to make it. And if you want to make it, you have to take a crazy amount of risks. You will spend an immense amount of stress trying to figure out what's working, what's not working. Entrepreneurship is waking up every day and banging your head against the wall, hoping something will give. And my belief and my hope and my belief system tells me that as long as I keep making progress and as long as I put one foot in front of the other, then I know that I will one day get to where I want to get to. And it's worth it. I can't go back to the way I used to live my life, which is working at a corporate job. And so for me, I would rather be, poor and have nothing going for me. I'd rather be poor and have, nothing but the clothes on my back than to go back to my $170,000 salary working in corporate America at a job that I hate. Much rather. At the end of the day, we can, we'll move to Brazil, pay $500 a month in rent, and, we'll make it happen. But what I'm not going to do is spend my life working for people that I don't like, doing something that I don't care about. So when I made that switch to this is what I'm going to focus on, I have a commitment to you, to myself, to the people around me, that I'm going to give my 100% effort every single day, do whatever I can do to make this happen. And there's no way that it's not going to work. There's no way. But the variable in there is the time frame, the vehicle that gets me there. But to me, it's just a matter of time. And it's not going to happen by itself either. It's not just, it's going to happen eventually. If I'm not putting that work in every single day, then it's not going to happen. That's for sure. But right now, I'm dedicated to seeking the knowledge that I need in order to get me there. And this podcast has been such an amazing thing for my personal and professional development, because I'm able to invite people on the show that are going to improve my network. So I can have somebody here that is 10 steps ahead of me. I have something to offer them. Come here, let's have a conversation. You get some great content out of it, some great publicity out of it. I get to ask you all the questions that I want to ask. And now you're a part of my network. We've had a 1-hour face-to-face conversation. And, now we follow each other on social media. Now I have your phone number. Now when I have questions, I can reach out to you. I've absorbed some of your knowledge. And it's a life hack. This podcast is a life hack because now I'm increasing my knowledge. I'm increasing my network. And those are these are the prerequisites to success. You can't do it alone, and you can't do it without the knowledge. So, I started podcasting last year. I did a lot of online type podcasts, virtual stuff. I thought that was kind of boring though, because nobody likes to watch two people on a screen having a Zoom call. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know it's okay, and sometimes you need to do it, but this is so much better, don't you think?
Oh yeah, for sure. The setup also, and I agree. Zoom calls are something that you could bear on your company that you're working for.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But of course you wanted to hang out and meet people in person. But I agree 100% with everything you said. I think the mat needs to mat at the end of the day. That's why I relate your journey a little bit with my journey. But my dream at the end of the day was to become someone in the corporate America.
Yeah.
So that mat needs to be a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we wouldn't have so many people in the corporate America, right? So I just believe that your goal uses the same mat that it was for me, but a little bit longer.
There's more variables, there's less known things, but at the end of the day, if you have the goal remains the same, but the methods may change along the way. And this is a much more fun journey. I'm not anywhere near where I want to be financially, anywhere near, but I feel so much more fulfilled every day because I'm walking my own path. And if that means I'm going to be a starving artist, so be it. But hopefully it's going to be for a short period of time because, I'm not afraid to say that I'm money motivated. I'm very, very motivated by money. I always have been. But not for the things that it can buy me, but for the life that it can allow me to live. And the freedom that I can get from having certain resources and not being reliant on other people for money.
Bars.
You're so Gen Z. By the way, she's in her third.
Shut up. Okay, I'm done. I am done here.
Her age starts with a 3.
Para gravação.
Oh, man.
Okay, I think let's wrap it up.
Okay, we can wrap it up. Patricia, thank you so much for your time, for your sharing your story with us. It's a huge inspiration, not just to aspiring software engineers, but immigrants and females and everybody else, and to me. You've been an inspiration to me and what you've accomplished, and I love you.
I love you too. Thank you so much. That was great. Follow me on my social medias for nothing because I don't post as much.
Just pictures of me.